Okay, well, we have a second time guest on the show today. Please welcome the host of We Met at Acme, Lindsey Metselaar. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you for having me and for pronouncing my last name perfectly.
That's amazing because that is like a rare occasion for Leanna to really nail the pronunciation.
Yeah, I usually get
you
that.
Wouldn't know.
Say it again.
You would not know because you did it so well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I tend to like get a little fumbled in the introductions.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, we have so much that we want to talk to you about today. But just kind of like reminiscing on the first time you were on the podcast, you were recently in a new relationship and now you're engaged to that person.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Wild.
Can you just share with our listeners a little bit of that journey?
Yes. So I started dating my now fiance a couple months before the pandemic hit. And we kind of always knew each other. He went to high school with one of my college friends. And then we ran into each other at a party and in a different place than we lived. So that was funny. And then I was like kind of getting out of another relationship at the time. So I had to be the one to be like, I'm single if you want to go out, which is not usually my thing. Like I like to be pursued, but I kind of had to be like, hey, I'm single, putting that out there. And we started dating and then the pandemic hit and we kind of had to go on lockdown pretty early into our relationship. We weren't even official at the time. And that definitely, it's like either works or you break up in that situation. And it worked for us. And we got to know each other pretty quickly and our families. And now, 2 years later, we're engaged, which is so awesome. And he's just really different than anyone else I've ever dated. And we're very much on the same page. And so it's just really refreshing and really nice to have found him. So that's the story.
That's amazing. I was one of the pandemic lockdown couples that did not make it.
Really? Wait, tell us why. Like what came to the surface?
Yeah, tell us why, Jared.
So we had been dating for I think we started dating in October 2019. So then March we quarantined together. I actually think we did a really good job of navigating the now living together and whatever. And there was lots of moving pieces because she had a 14-year-old son and her father lived with her and all these things. But I think it ended because it had to end. It wasn't oh no, we can't do this. And it blew up. And then I'm not sitting here wondering boy, if we could have made it, I'm oh yeah, that was the right thing. I wish her the best.
Yeah.
There's no ill will, but yeah.
Plus she didn't like me.
Well, that's a deal breaker. Why? She thought that there was something more going on in your relationship.
She just
struggled with some jealousy stuff. Yeah. So it was
interesting. Yeah. Well, so that actually makes me think, because someone asked me today, we do this ask me a question on Fridays, and someone was like, do you think that platonic relationships can exist? And I do, with some rules attached to it. So I want to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, we agree. We've done a whole episode on this about, and we have, I think really good boundaries. So when you say with some kind of rules or understanding, I think we've been friends long enough. So when we first became friends, Leanna was married, and then we've both been in relationships and everything like that. And I think to me, I would say the key is sort of honesty and having boundaries.
Yeah. We've never kissed, we've never held hands, we've never hooked up. There's not a lot of touchy feely. We don't hang out all the time. Now we have a business together. So that adds another element. And we know, I think we both have kind of thought about it, like what could happen, or would it, would it be fun? Would it be exciting? Would it work out? And we both come to the conclusion in our own minds that it would not. Plus, Lindsey, I know you would appreciate this, but a medium told us that we were brother sister in a former life.
Oh.
And that
so that would be weird.
Yeah, exactly. And that we are like compatible, but if we were to get together at this time, it would blow up.
So what are your signs?
I'm a Pisces.
Okay.
And I'm a Libra, but I have a Pisces moon and a Libra rising.
So can I do a quick analysis?
Yeah.
But I feel like you guys are going to be like, oh, that's so awkward. I think that Jared would be interested, but I think Leanna is the one calling the shot of saying no.
Oh, I think it's actually opposite.
I'm just projecting my own experiences as a Libra with Pisces people.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but Lindsey, what are your like rules for like how can a platonic relationship
so
work?
here's the breakdown. I think it works if what I just said, if the girl is the one, if in a hetero platonic scenario, if the woman is the one who's not interested, the friendship can work. I think if you've hooked up before and you know that it's not a thing that you want to do again, I think if you're friends because one of them, like let's say you're friends because like Jared was your ex's best friend, right? Like if there's like an actual reason it cannot happen, because that would be like very harmful, let's say, to the ex.
Sure.
And then I think the last reason, that might be my three. So I think in those scenarios, the friendship can work, but like, or maybe the reverse scenario for the first one. Like, for example, my fiance has a girlfriend who's interested in him, but he's not interested in her. And that works too. But I think like, obviously one person has to be not down for more than the friendship.
Yeah.
But there's always one person who would be. Always, always, always.
Yeah. And I think, well, it's good that your fiance is knocking the other girl because, he's engaged. She should probably take the hit.
But this is like pre me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think at this time we're both on board. And I think what happened is like when he was maybe interested, I wasn't. When I was maybe interested, he wasn't. And then we both just kind of came to this like mutual understanding and conclusion that like maybe it would work, but we're choosing not to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So with your fiance and this woman that was in his life before you were, are they still friends?
No, but I didn't come in and like wreak havoc on their friendship. I was just like, I picked up on the fact that she wasn't nice to me, and like all of his other friends were. And I thought that was very odd, because like I made an effort with her. It's not like I expected her to just come up to me and be like, oh my God, hi, like I heard so much about you. I made the effort and got shut down multiple times. So I pointed that out to him, just not in like an aggressive way, but just like, I just want you to know that I've made an effort with this girl and she shuts me down, or like she doesn't even look at me or like address me when we're all together. I like, is everything okay? Like, what's the deal, And he was like, are you sure? Like, that's so, like, he really had no idea. He was like, that's weird. And I was like, yeah, it's bizarre, like bizarre, and then I asked him, I was like, do you think that she like has she ever expressed like having a crush on you or like, you know, anything like that? And he was like, actually, yeah, like she has. When we were, you know, X age at X year of whatever school, she told everyone that she really wanted to hook up with me or like, you know, date me. And I was just not interested. And I was like, okay, so now let's put two and two together. Like, she hates me because she wants to be with you. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be friends with her, but I'm just making you aware of that, right?
Yeah.
And then their friendship kind of just like naturally faded because I think he started to feel weird about her behavior towards me. And I think if she had like been more open to me and like sweet and kind of got over her dream of them being together, then like we'd all like they'd still be friends. But I don't think she could do that.
Yeah. I mean, because to me it works like if the boundaries are clear and like both people are like over it, right? And that there actually is a friendship compatibility connection. Because sometimes it's just the like, well, actually, I really want to be with you, but I'll take this as the consolation prize. Like I think that never works, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And like we had the reverse scenario where like I had a guy friend or I have a guy friend who would love to be with me, but like it's not happening. And you know, at first he was like hesitant about Steven, my fiance. And then he got to know him and gave him a chance. And now he's like, I surrender. Like, I love this guy, you know? And like, we all laugh because like we can admit that and like continue being friends as opposed to what happened with the girl, you know?
Yeah. You know, I think that brings up a really valid point of like, sometimes when there's weirdness or awkwardness, like amongst a relationship and friends or whatever, if you bring it to the surface and just talk about it, it makes it less weird and it puts it out in the open and it can actually like give the other person a little security. You know, like that. I think the same thing kind of happened with his ex at the time is like, I tried so hard to be so welcoming and like just be like, hey, I want to be your friend. Like, just so you know, like, you know, like once Jared is in a relationship or once I'm in a relationship, we don't hang out as much. Like that's just how it happens. To her defense, we did start this podcast during their relationship. So I kind of came along and then all of a sudden we're on the screen talking about sex and dating and all this stuff. So like,
fair.
I get that. And I told her that, like, I understand. And just so you know, like, this is platonic, like, this is just something that I want to do. And anyway, she couldn't get over it.
What was her sign?
She was a Scorpio.
Well, that explains that.
That's great. So Lindsey, are like you okay diving deep with us a little bit?
Of course, I love it.
Okay, so a question that we sometimes ask our guests is, what experiences in your early life shaped how you approach or show up in relationships?
Great question. I think some of them were traumatic and some of them were like good. I was like, when I first started dating, I was so naive. I really just didn't know that it was possible for anyone to like cheat or treat you badly. And I've been like a monogamist for a long time. And I had a serious relationship, like a high school sweetheart, as they say, but I don't know if I want to call him a sweetheart after what went down, but you know, a high school relationship. And we were together for 3 years. And during that time, he had cheated on me like multiple times. I only found out about one because it was like so obvious. But I never like thought to like look into that kind of thing. Cause I was like, why would he do that? Like, we're together. Like, I trust him. Like, my parents are happy. Like, it was just never a thing that like I thought was possible. And after that happened and like you know, that was like the first time I really like opened my heart and like was in love and whatever. And so that really made me like have a wall up after, because I was like, I don't trust anyone now. Like if that guy was cheating on me, then like, you know, I don't trust anyone. And I think it's a really hard time to date when you're young because cheating just matters less, you know, like it just happens more. It just happens more because there's more people around. It's more accessible. You're in schools, you're in camps, you're in summer programs, you're in teen tours, whatever it is, you know, and there's always people around and the stakes are so much lower. Like you're not in a relationship that's set to go to marriage. So like cheating is very subjective. Like, you know, most men from my experience dating as a young like a teenager, they don't take it seriously the way that girls do, you know? And so I like got hurt a lot in that process of like being a monogamist so young. And so that by the time I got to college and like by the time I, you know, was like 18, like I was just like my walls were so far up that like I just didn't really trust anyone. And I didn't trust my own judgment and like my own decisions. And so I started kind of dating as like to protect myself almost. And it, but even so, like, even though I was dating to protect myself, I kind of still like every time it didn't work out, I kind of just like brushed myself off and like got back up and like tried again. So it was like, even though I was really protecting myself, I was still always like ready to go again. But I think that, yeah.
Oh, no. So when you say like dating to protect yourself, like what I'm picturing or like maybe projecting is like, you know, sort of like getting involved with guys, but you still have like a lot of walls up. You're really not kind of trusting and like, or maybe a little bit, but like kind of like keeping yourself at a distance, like being a little more avoidant. Like, is that kind of what you mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, like never letting them get too close, never opening up too much and like shutting the door before something bad could happen again. Like for example, there was a guy I dated in college, towards the end of college, and I'd heard rumors that he was like flirting behind my back, not even cheating, like flirting. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna cheat on him, which is like such a crazy dark place to be. But I was like, I'm gonna cheat on him because that way, like if it comes to the surface that like he cheated, then like I'm good because like I already did that, you know, like it was like that. And then I had to like kind of reprogram the way that I thought about dating, like once I like became in like the real world. But that didn't happen until I was like 25 and started to date someone that was like a really good person and get my, you know, stuff back together. But there was like, I would say between 15 and 25, I was like defensively dating.
Wow. Well, and it's so interesting because when you describe like how you were at that time and even that story about like sort of preemptively cheating on the guy, we had Jamie Wood on our show, and something that he said that like still stays with me is like this idea that of like when we do things that are toxic, right? Like that, like toxicity is like pain that we haven't dealt with. You know,
For
like
sure.
you know,
Always.
yeah.
Yeah.
It isn't like, oh, this person's a terrible person. It's like, oh no, that person is like carrying around a lot of shit, a lot of like difficult, like and like they're suffering too.
Well, I think a lot of people can, including myself, can really relate to that, you know, not just in the I'm going to cheat because I think you're going to cheat, or I'm going to cheat because you cheated, but also in like I'm going to end this because I'm so afraid that you're going to end this, and I want to make sure that I protect myself by walking away from this before you abandon me.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's just like the only way to not get hurt sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if you don't, you know, it's like would you rather love and have lost or have never loved at all? You know, it's like that quote.
Yeah. Now what like turned the corner for you like around 25, and like how did that work?
I started dating somebody who I knew to be a very good person. And I stopped kind of being intrigued by the like bad boy with the bad reputation who like it's the same result every time. So I was like, what if I just did something differently? And I started dating a nice guy and he treated me really well. And I was like, I don't want to say like the person in charge of the relationship, but I was like, I just had a lot more confidence and control in the relationship. And I was like, this is more of my speed. And like, then ultimately that person was too nice for me almost, you know, and ultimately, you know, years later, now I'm with my fiance who is the best guy, but he also like challenges me and has those like bad boy moments. And so I think like finding that balance was was difficult for me in the whole dating process, but I got it.
I was gonna ask in the beginning when you were saying that your fiance has qualities that you haven't ever seen in any of the other men that you've dated or been in a relationship with. What are those qualities that he has?
So my fiance is a Cancer. So just to go back to astrology, you know, he really feels like, you know how it is, Jared, being a water sign. Like he's very in tune with his emotions, and me not so much. You know, I'm a Libra with a Capricorn moon, and very like hard. And he is like if something happens to me, like I won't cry, but like he'll cry for me, you know, like
Aw.
things that like I've never experienced from a human, to be honest with you. And he really brings out like that, like my emotional side in a really good, healthy way, because like I tend to kind of just like put them, you know, shove them below the surface. But he's also like, you know, he and I are very similar in a lot of ways. I would say more than we're different. But it's not in the ways that like, you know, I, bear with me here. Tell me if you feel this way. Like sometimes when you're dating, you're like, I don't want them to be too similar to me, but I don't want them to be too similar to me because I don't want them to think the way that I do. Because then, and this is just like me being toxic for a second, but because then they'll like, it's like too, like they can't think the way that I do, right? So it's not like we're similar in that we think the same way. We're similar, like similar values, like we both like to work really hard, and like we both like to like be the like charismatic person at the party. So like that kind of stuff, but he's like a good person. Like it was really hard for me to find like a charismatic guy who wasn't like also a cheater. I don't know why. It was just like hard for me to find that. And he is kind of like the best of both worlds in that way.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that it's like, do you feel like it's just harder for men who are maybe extroverted and bold and charismatic to be monogamous?
I think sometimes it's associated with like wanting attention and like validation. And so like often you see these like charismatic men who like, you know, like everyone like wants to be around them, but then you find out later that like they, you know, like went home with two people that weren't their wife. I don't know. Like that just I feel like is a thing. Like it's rare to find. Like I would say the only charismatic celebrity who to our knowledge is loyal is like Obama. Like, you know, but it's like you like all these other people who like have like that personality sometimes have that part of them, but I'm like generalizing. I mean, I'm sure there's so many in betweens. That's just my experience.
Hashtag not all charismatic men.
Yeah, literally, that's amazing.
Well, and like, I mean, I think because there's like that, like the overlapping circles, right? Of like men who are extroverted and charismatic. And I think there's a big overlap with like this ego driven, like, you know, like when you see these alpha male characteristics, a lot of times that's dudes who are putting that on because, you know, they need to, they think they need to sleep with a lot of women to like have self-worth, right? Like
right,
you know,
right, exactly.
Yeah. I
Exactly.
you know, the medium that I had, Lindsey, she said that I was going to meet someone soon who is quiet. He's quiet and introverted and intellectual. And I'm going to have to, he looks different than someone I've ever dated. And I'm going to have to make the first move. Like I'm going to have to like smile or go up to him or whatever. So she said, I'm going to meet him around like Christmas time.
Very cool. I love that. I'm excited to hear about this mystery man soon.
So he's quiet. So he probably won't cheat on me.
Exactly. No, actually like that. I feel like sometimes a quiet person is like, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to deter you from it. So yes, let's find that guy.
That's so great. So Lindsey, you talked about like the way in which your fiance, and maybe this is me putting words in your mouth, but like kind of helps you kind of get in touch more with your emotions and like is really like empathic for you in that way. Like what would you say you bring to him? Like what is your kind of superpower in the relationship that makes it work?
Literally nothing. No, I really try to take care of him. In return, he loves like things of the home, like home cooked meals, like groceries, like just like little things like that on the superficial side. And then I think I also like I'm kind of like a hardo. Like I've become like I don't drink. Need to work out, and like this isn't happening right this second, especially because of the COVID surge. But like usually I'm very routine. I stick to my schedule. Like I do this, I do that, and you know, he can like vary off the path sometimes, and I get him like back to it, and I'm like, don't you think it'd be so fun like if you know went to the gym? But it's not like I'm shaming him, like trust me, he's like a twig. But it's like you know, I think you should do this extra thing, you know. I push him, and he's always grateful for it afterwards. You know, there were, you know, he loves sleep, and sometimes he can just like get really into the sleep, and you know, he just started his own company, and I have been working for myself for a while. And so I will tell him like my best practices, because like if you don't make a schedule for yourself when you're your own boss, like you're going to sleep all day.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you got to get up this time, you got to do this, you got to have this, you got to do this. And he's like annoyed at first, but then he's so appreciative. So like that kind of stuff. And then I also just like organize our lives. Like I like get our friends gifts, like send flowers if someone does something nice for us. Like I do things on behalf of the two of us. And he appreciates that stuff so much, because like otherwise it wouldn't get done. And like he's always saying like, you're going to be like such a good mom, like you're so on top of it. And like I think those are the things that like he really, really appreciates in me.
Yeah. As a fellow water sign, like, and someone who's like number one love language is like acts of service, I was like, oh, that sounds so wonderful.
Is that his love language, acts of service?
It's actually physical touch, but that's definitely up there.
Okay. And then what is your love language?
Mine is probably acts of service as well. I just like when, but not like acts of service in the way that like, please make my life easier, not harder, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So here's a question. How did you grow, or what did you learn in your learn about yourself in your last relationship before your fiance? Like, was there something you took out of a recent relationship that really helped you in this one?
Great question. I think I learned that like I do so much in a relationship, and like my standard for myself in a relationship is really high, and it hurt me to not like have that met necessarily, right? Like I feel like I give a lot of freedom to my partners. I not like I'm the ideal like girlfriend. Like, no, like, it's different for everyone, but I felt like I was doing more almost. And I was like, I want to be with someone who and at the same time, I felt like I was constantly reminding my partner to say thank you, to, just to do things, not in the way that I just described, but like normal basic things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I realized that I need someone that like I don't have to pick and pry, that kind of just like gets, that acts in a way that I don't scrutinize. And that's really hard because I do scrutinize a lot. I'm a Virgo Venus, which we could talk about another time. um, and my partner now, like, he has phenomenal manners. He is so warm with like people, and that was a huge thing for me. Like, I wanted people to, and this is like a Libra thing that I wonder if you can relate to, Leanne, but like, Leanna, I want everyone to love my partner, like, I don't just want to love my partner. I want everyone else to enjoy them and to like them, like independent of me. And I felt like in my last relationship, I had to like vouch for them a lot and like convince people like, oh, they're just, like, I didn't ever want to make excuses for a partner. And I think in my last relationship, as wonderful as this person was, I felt like they weren't where I was yet in terms of having done the work on myself as a person. And that was harder. So I guess that was a realization that I learned, that like, it's so important to be on the same level of like, here's what I've done to get myself to this point in life. And that doesn't mean like career wise, even, it just means like, have done the inner work.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. That's something that I haven't found yet either, is someone who's genuinely like, if any of my exes listen to this, they're going to be so mad, but like genuinely kind, like a kind human being, it's like if I do something, say thank you. Like when they do something for me, I say thank you. Everybody wants to feel appreciated. And I too also feel like I give more, which is part of like my codependency. And that's like something that I need to keep working on. But I've never felt seen or heard. And I think that's because that person didn't really have the capacity that I have. And they maybe need someone that is, doesn't need that, or maybe is a little bit more superficial, but it's like, it doesn't make sense to me. Certain things that people do, like people that don't pick up their dog shit, or, their dog's shit, not their dog shit, but, but, like people that don't tip the waiters well. Like if you make dinner, they should offer to do the dishes. Like it's
always.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Like you're preaching to exactly what my last relationships were like.
Yeah.
Well, and interestingly, to like what Lindsey was saying, I think what you're describing, Leanna, is like, I think when you're dating someone who hasn't done their own like personal growth and like work stuff, like inner work, like, because part of doing inner work is that it's sort of like you're less absorbed in yourself and more able to like sort of see and appreciate all the good things in your life and appreciate the people around you and communicate that. And I think when someone's not there yet, like they haven't done that.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And Lindsey, when you were telling your story, like I was projecting my story into it, which is that I thought you were going to say part of what you learned was maybe to not give so much to the point where you do kind of feel resentful or unappreciated, because I feel like that's been a big thing for me, is like I used to do that all the time in relationships where I would like just like it was easy for me to know how to be like the perfect boyfriend and to just do those things, and like that felt good, but eventually it was like exhausting. And so for me, part of my work has been kind of connecting with myself to be like, okay, how do I still be a good and giving partner, but also ask for what I need and not do so much that I get sort of exhausted or resentful or shut down or whatever it is.
Exactly. But I really do feel like the partner that is right for you, like you can still do all that stuff for them and they'll do it back as well. And that way you just won't feel like I'm doing too much. You'll feel like I'm doing enough because it's the right person and they appreciate it and give it back like tenfold.
Yeah. When people say like, make sure to go into a relationship or to get married with low expectations, I don't like that because I feel like if actually, your recent guest, Amy, was saying this, like, if you, whatever energy you put out there and that's what you want, like, that's what you're going to get back. Like, if you set the standard low, you're going to get low. If you set your standard high, you're going to get high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is maybe a weird question. Because Lindsey, I haven't been dating for like, I don't know, 6 months now. And I'm like sort of starting to think about like getting back out. And that's actually been a really healthy time for me of like really connecting to myself. And I feel like a lot of growth and stuff like that. And I'm like a very like sort of spiritual explorer, like deep diver, like deep therapy, like all that stuff. And is it weird to think about like, because you're like a astrology sort of medium person, so I feel like you're down with this stuff. But to me, I'm like, I'm interested in a relationship where we're both actually trying to like wake up, where we're both like trying to be like, continue to do this really like the relationship actually serves the deep work of like evolving and like consciousness and like getting past your ego and like you know, like recognizing like what this world is and like what we're doing in it and stuff like that. But I feel like that's like that's hard to put on a Hinge profile.
No, you can't put it on a Hinge profile, but it is something that you can like suss out. Like you can sense if someone's like that kind of person to like go there with. But I think you only know once you like are on a few dates in person with them. Because I feel like anyone who's going to respond to that on a dating app, you don't want to be with anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the other problem. Is like because like women that I've like either matched with or whatever that like lead with a lot of this like spiritual stuff. I'm like they're like
they freak you out.
Yeah, like, and because it doesn't feel like genuine. I'm like, it feels like, you know, like there's this term like spiritual bypass. Like it feels like, oh, you're trying to do an end around all of your issues by being like, I'm just so like cosmic.
Yeah,
man.
spiritual.
Like,
No.
Yeah, whenever I see a guy on a dating app who's like a yogi or a yoga teacher, and it's all like vibes and spiritualness, and they have like long hair, and I'm like, I'm a yoga teacher, and I'm like, I do not want anything to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I wonder if that's how people have experienced me.
Well, maybe you need some.
We got to work on your profile. Actually, you guys are for sure going to come on We Met at Acme, and we'll do a little deep dive into your profile, Jared.
We would love it.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
So don't change it until then.
Oh, okay.
Well, I actually don't have one because I like deleted them.
Yeah, should
like
we
6
create
months
one?
Oh, we'll create.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll create. Or you can create it now and then we can edit it.
Okay, deal.
Well, we would have one final question for you if as we kind of wrap this up. But like, what our last question is, what is something that your fiance has done that has really made you laugh?
I loved this question. I saw that you guys had sent it over, and I mean, we are so weird together. And I remember when we first started dating, I called my best friend and I was like, I'm really scared because, you know, I'm weird. Like I do my weird shit. And what if I'll never be able to like be weird with Steven? And she was like, you've been dating for a month, like relax, give it some time. Like, I bet you guys will be very weird very soon. And immediately, like right after that conversation, we finally began to be weird together. And I feel like that's like the key. We do this thing where like we give every inanimate is that in? Yeah, I think inanimate object, like a voice. And it's so dumb. It's like, it's too much. It's like too extensive. Like, for example, like he has like a protruding rib situation, and like we've even named the protruding rib.
Yes.
Like we've named him Rabini. And so sometimes I will be like laying on him and I'll be like, hi Rabini, and then he'll talk back to me as the rib. Like just such dumb shit, but like it kills us.
I love that.
And then like I'll do it back to him. So like we have this really funny running joke. It's actually not funny. It's just funny to us because we're so weird. But we had this water in the sink and it was like going down. He was like, oh, like get rid of all that starchy water. And then I was like getting rid of it. And he was like, okay, bye starchy water. And then I spoke back to him as the starchy water. And that's like our thing right now. And it's so dumb, but like the two of us just like lose it over it. And so right now it's like, you know, speaking as inanimate objects and parts of our bodies. But I mean, he's a really funny person. Like he does really funny impressions of like our friends, you know, like they have no idea, but like he's just so good at impersonating them when we're not with them. Like we'll go to dinner with like a couple and then we'll come back and he'll do like a full impersonation of like something dumb that the guy said, and I will just like lose it. So yeah, I guess the inanimate object thing is working for us.
I
right
love
now.
that, but nothing's better than a good roast, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love a good roast.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Did you have one more thing?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I was just gonna say, I think like the coolest thing about that story is I feel like it made me realize like trying to not be weird in a relationship, like just don't be in the relationship.
Right.
Like isn't that the end?
Exactly.
Like if you're gonna spend fucking years together, like just you know, like what the fuck else are you gonna do? Like just go.
Like let your free flag fly.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsey, thank you so much for coming on again. We highly recommend your podcast. You're amazing. I love that you're just this powerhouse of a woman, and tell our listeners where they can find you and how they can support you.
Thank you guys so much, and for having me back. You are so great to talk to, and like with all the shit going on in the world, this was just such a nice conversation to have. You can find me at We Met At Acme on Instagram or anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's called We Met At Acme.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you guys.
Okay, Lindsey, don't go anywhere.